This is either the most over-engineered and overpriced tool brand on the planet, or it sets the gold standard for serious tool buyers. At least that's what most of the internet will say, depending on who you ask. Some people treat Makita like they're their firstborn child, or maybe even their favorite sports team, whichever one they like more. And then there's others that think that Makita's eaten the sawdust of DeWalt and Milwaukee. In this video, I'm going to cut through the fanboy noise and I'm going to show you 5 Makita tools that are seriously on another level, and one that I would absolutely avoid at all costs, and I regret buying it. No matter if you turn Makita blue when you see these because you love them so much, or you just dislike the brand altogether, this video is for you. Let's go. If you'd like to check out any of these tools you see today, I'll link them in the description and the pinned comment to help you find them easier, as well as that shop button here on YouTube if available. Number 1 on the list has to be my favorite Makita tool to date, and it's kind of controversial, and it's the Makita Cordless Corded Sander. I reviewed this a few weeks ago and the comments are a mixed bag. Some people love it, some people not so much. But I think this Makita tool is on another level because of the unique features, or specifically feature. Elephant in the room is obviously the corded/cordless sander. I think this is absolutely genius because it removes the battery weight from the sander and you're left with the weight of the sander. Why that matters? Well, if you look at something like the Milwaukee, if you add a battery, a bigger battery specifically onto that sander, it puts a lot of weight on the back. And a lot of these other cordless sanders are very similar like that. If you add that battery on there, it puts a lot of weight towards the back of the sander. That could cause a lot of swirl marks in your sanding because of the uneven pressure that's being put down on your stock when you're sanding. This, all of the weight is literally distributed onto the pad. It's balanced well. And so when you're sanding, you get a nice flat, even pressure when you're sanding your stock. This thing is absolutely amazing, but that's not the only thing that I love about this sander. There's a lot of features packed into this sander that I think a lot of people should consider if they're looking for something like this. Number 1, dust collection is phenomenal on this. You hook a dust extractor up to this, you'll see very, very little dust coming out from this sander. Now, if you're using the bag, you do see a little bit of dust coming from around the sanding surface that's being blown out because there's nothing pulling it out of there, but the bag actually collects quite a bit of dust. But when you pair this with a dust extractor, it rivals any high-end sander that I've used, including Festool. A few more really nice features: 6-inch sanding surface, so you're actually getting about 40-something% more sanding surface than a 5-inch sander. So you're gonna be spending less time sanding. Also, very, very little vibration on this sander. It's equal to a Festool, maybe a little better, probably close to the same, but your hand's not gonna get fatigued. I also love the ergonomics of the sander, how your hand just fits around the top. It just feels nice in the hand. It's gonna not fatigue your hand when you're sanding for long periods of time. And speaking of long periods of time, the 4 amp hour battery, 40 volt battery, you're getting plenty of battery life to sand most all of your sanding projects. I've seen no issues here at all. This is also a variable speed sander, so you can dial up or down the speed as you need it. I love how this dissipates the heat or doesn't heat up very much at all. I took a thermal imager and looked inside and it just doesn't get hot. It's not hot on the hand, slightly warm if that, but from others that I've tested and seen in the past, some of them get really, really hot. This is not the case. And why that matters is heat doesn't build up on this sanding pad, which will cause that dust to cake up on there. Doesn't happen with this because the heat's not being built up. Especially when you're using it with a dust extractor, because it's pulling that airflow through the sanding pad, also through the vents and then into the dust extractor, so it keeps it nice and cool so you can sand longer. If you don't know, heat is the enemy of sanding because of that friction buildup. It just makes things messy. You don't have that problem here. This does come with a couple of cool features. One, you feel like the ultimate warrior because you have that armband that will help route this cable up and out of the way, especially if you're working on ladders and scaffolding and things like that. If you don't know who the ultimate warrior is, you missed out as a child. I personally think this is one of the best Makita tools that you can buy right now. This is brand new. It just come out this year. They did a fantastic job. I can't say enough about it. Now, there are some drawbacks to this, but not many. Really, the only drawback that I found is if you clip it to your person, your belt, whatever you're gonna do, and you're sanding, you may forget that it's clipped to you, and when you start walking away, then ultimately what's gonna happen is as you walk away, the sander wants to follow you because it loves you that much. It's not a bad thing, but you just gotta remember that it's on there. Otherwise, you'll knock it off into the floor. That's really the only drawback that I have to this sander. I think they did a phenomenal job. It's as close to perfect as you're gonna get to a cordless sander in 2025, and probably next year or two. Next up, my favorite tool to use in woodworking by far is a track saw. I have reviewed more track saws than probably anybody on YouTube as a whole, just because I love them so much. I think they're one of the greatest tools ever invented for woodworking. I don't know why I like them so much, I just do. And Makita makes amazing ones. And for a while, I kind of didn't dip my toe into that Makita blue Kool-Aid. I just didn't know any better. Now Makita makes 3 different track saws that I'm aware of anyway. If there's another one, let me know and I'll review it. This is the Makita Corded Track Saw. I think this is best for most people who don't want to get into cordless track saws. If you're looking for a track saw, just go get this one. It's awesome. We'll talk about it. However, they also make 2 different cordless track saw, a 40 volt and a 36 volt, aka 2 18-volt batteries equals 36 volt. They're almost all identical in features and use and accuracy, except for how they're powered. Makita track saws are, in my opinion, on the Mount Rushmore of track saws. I think they are way up there. The only thing that keeps me from saying this is the greatest one is I'm a huge Milwaukee fanboy, or at least I used to.
Hold it, wait, hold it. Hand it over.
Seriously?
Yep, hand it over. I know.
After losing my fanboy card, I might get a Makita fanboy card. I don't know. We'll see. So let's just talk about the track saws in general. It just depends on which model you want to go with. If you're looking for cordless and you don't know which one to get, 40 volt or 36 volt, I say go 40 volt. It's only one battery. You don't have to deal with the 2 batteries. It's as powerful, if not more powerful, than the 36 volt, and all the rest of the features are basically the same. If you don't want to get into what cordless one you want, you don't like cordless tools, that's awesome, because they make a corded version that's absolutely amazing as well. They all use the exact same track, so you don't have to worry about that. And speaking of the tracks, Makita's tracks are by far on another level from any other track saw on the market. They just glide so smooth on that track compared to any of the top brands like Festool, Milwaukee, Bosch. Like, their track is on another level by itself. It's up there. It is the only track on the Mount Rushmore. There are no other competitors that equal that track. It's just butter smooth. As far as the track saw features go, all of these operate very, very similarly. They have the single pole adjustment that glides smooth. Wasn't a fan of that single pole movement. I typically like the adjustments that's on the Milwaukee or on the Festool. Even the Rigid had a very nice adjustment for depth settings. But as far as single pole goes, this one is smooth. It just works. As far as bevel cuts, 0 to 48 degrees on all 3. All 3 of these have the scribe feature, so there's a button you can push. It only drops the blade down just a little bit, so it scores the top of your sheet goods like plywood, thin veneers, things like that, and that prevents tear out and splintering and that sort of thing. So I'm glad to see that. They all 3 have anti-tip, so you don't have to worry about that. Festool doesn't even have anti-tip. And they are all 3 very accurate saws, no matter if you're cutting plywood or if you're cutting thicker hardwoods like this walnut. Super square every time. They're all 3 variable speed. They all 3 have really good dust collection. One of the only differences that I found is on this 40 volt. I don't think the 36 volt had it. The 40 volt has a Bluetooth module in it so that you can Bluetooth connect this to the Makita dust extractor, so when you power this on, the dust extractor automatically comes on. Is that a big deal for some? Maybe not. Of course, the corded one you can just plug into your dust extractor and then it'll do the same thing. It just depends on if you like wireless or not. Overall, I think Makita makes some excellent track saws. If you're in the market, you should seriously give them a consideration. Let's talk tool storage. Makita come out with MAKTRACK this past year, and they hit the ground running with it because they have a lot of good options here, and I think you'll be surprised by them. Now, Makita did send me this MAKTRACK system. This is the only thing they sent me. Everything else I've purchased, but I am a huge Milwaukee Packout fanboy. Most people know that if you watch the channel. I have a lot of Packout stuff, and I've absolutely loved it. Now, a lot of people think this plastic storage options from these big brands are nothing more than overpriced plastic junk. And I used to feel the same way, so I feel you. But I've since changed my mind since I started buying the Milwaukee Packout stuff. I've used Klein, I've used Flex, I've used this Makita stuff. All of them are really good, all of them. But I think Makita's doing something really cool here that I haven't seen anybody else do. First, I love the rolling toolbox. This is great if you have to load your tools in and out of the truck because that extended handle literally hooks onto your tailgate, gives you some leverage so you can pick up the backside and slide it in. And they specifically made these to fit under tonneau covers, bed covers, whatever you call them. I don't have one. I want one. Let me know what's the best. But they made them specifically to fit under those. So you can lock these up inside your truck and not have to worry about thieves. Nobody likes thieves. Don't be a thief. They also hold excuse my language, a crap ton of stuff. Like you can just pack stuff into these things. There's different size boxes for you to choose from. From the large rolling toolbox, there's one that goes on top of the large rolling toolbox. It's very similar in size, but it just doesn't have the wheels. There's a large box here that I've got my track saw in, sanders, that sort of thing. And then of course you have these kind of medium and small size organizers. Most all of them have some type of tray or small parts organizers inside. And these are very, very well made. Like you can tell when you pick them up, they are very well made. So I'm not a fan of Festool sustainers that you see up there. I think they're kind of thin plastic. I just don't like them. I don't like how they feel. But the Makitas and Milwaukee's and Klein's, they're made out of really heavy duty plastics, and I really like that. Makita's no different here. They have really beefy latches on these things, and a lot of these toolboxes open two ways, which I absolutely love. You can open up one side or you can open up the other, so you don't really have to worry about which side you're on, especially on these bigger boxes, which I think is a really cool feature. They also have really nice beefy handles on there, so if you're carrying these around, lugging these around on the job site or in the shop, I think they'll last you a long time. There's a place on every one of these boxes to lock them up, little lock holes, so if you wanted to drop a padlock or combination lock, you could do that. I also love that you can open these boxes while the other one's attached. I think most of your tool companies do this, but it is a nice feature to be able to access stuff. Even there's boxes on top. We got the thin storage, we got the medium box, and I can still access either one of these on the bottom just to be able to get to any parts and pieces that I need to while I'm working. Now I hear from a lot of people that are in shops that don't really see a need for this type storage, but I disagree totally. I've been buying the pack out stuff, the Ryobi stuff, got this Makita stuff, had the Klein stuff, had the Flex stuff. Just having a place to put your tools when you're done with them and you know where they're at, they're not in the way, they're not strewn all over the workbench, makes life so much easier. I didn't know that for the first several years that I was in this shop. When I started to organize things, it just makes things way more productive because I know exactly where my tools are and I can go get them and I'm not spending 30 minutes looking for the saw that I know I have, or at least I think I know I have. I think out of the gate, Makita did a fantastic job on their storage. I would love to see them expand this even more, which I think they probably will. Just based on what I've seen so far on these boxes, I would love to see some wall storage similar to pack out, similar to Ryobi, something that just gives you some wall organization. I think that'll be fantastic. But this initial release they've got going is on another level. Next up, the Makita miter saw, probably one of the better miter saws on the market, and it has been for a few years now. Now I purchased the Makita 12-inch miter saw, and I also purchased the Festool 10-inch miter saw. Ultimately, I decided to keep the Festool 10-inch. Had I ordered the Makita 10-inch, we may be talking a different story and I may need to give it another look. You let me know. The Makita's miter saws are very, very nice quality. Number one, they just look amazing. I mean, look at that saw, it just looks fantastic. However, just the use of it, the dust collection, everything works extremely well. Now, when I got the Festool miter saw, I had heard everybody talk about how amazing the dust collection was, and it's just okay. I was not impressed with it. It's okay. It's probably better than most, but it's not amazing. The Makita miter saw, when fully collapsed, is absolutely amazing. In other words, when you're not sliding it. The only time you really see a lot of dust is when you're sliding that saw, and that's just gonna happen. It's the nature of the beast. But in collapse mode, like if you're just using it as a chop saw, it's got a big old dust boot on there that just collects that dust. It also has a laser line, so if you like to use laser lines, it does have that feature. It's also a sliding compound miter saw, so you're gonna be able to do most any cuts that you're gonna wanna do with this saw. It'll miter up to 60 degrees, which is a really good capacity for miter saws. Some miter saws, or a lot of miter saws, actually bump out at 50 degrees or even 55. So I'm glad to see 60 degrees on here. The sliding capacity is extremely good. There's not a lot of deflection on this miter saw unless you push hard right or hard left, which is typical of any sliding miter saw, including the Festool. Another thing that's great about the Makita miter saw is the bevel cuts. It can go up to 48 degrees. It hard stops at 45, but there's a release switch that gets you over to 48, and all of those controls are accessible from the front. So there's a knob right at the front of those slide rails that you can use to do the bevel cuts or unlock it and move it. That's huge. That way you don't have to reach over or back behind the saw or anything like that to get to those bevel cuts, which also allows it to be flush mounted, which we'll talk about. One of the main things I loved about the 12-inch Makita saw was it had like 15 inches of cross-cutting capacity. So it would help you basically cross-cut a lot of stuff. Even wider plywood, you're able to cut a lot of capacity there and then flip it over and cut the rest, even if you have like a 2-foot piece. It's just a really, really good capacity on a miter saw like this. Of course, you'd lose a little bit with the 10-inch saw, but ultimately I think a 10-inch saw I've kind of changed my mind on this over the years. I think a 10-inch miter saw is probably the perfect size for most wood shops, just because most of us don't need that massive cutting capacity on the slide, but I'm probably wrong. Let me know. Another thing to love about the Makita miter saw is the fact that you can mount it pretty much flush with the wall or your miter stand or something. It just saves a lot of space. Unlike my DeWalt up there that has these giant rails that stick off the back, plus the dust hose that goes off the back, like you have to have a lot of space behind it, and that just eats up precious floor space in a shop. So I love the fact that you can pretty much flush mount these because of that rail system that goes forward. It's just a really good option for small shops or if you're trying to conserve space. Overall, I think the Makita miter saw is on another level from most other miter saws on the market, and if you are in the market for one, you may want to look at them. I think the 10-inch is best for most people, but you do you. Next up, Makita routers are probably some of the best on the market. They're on another level. But this last year, they come out with a 2.25 peak horsepower cordless router, the 40-volt router that I reviewed a while back, and it is fantastic. The new Makita 40-volt router is packed full of features. We'll also talk about a couple of their smaller trim routers, but this 40-volt router is powerful, 2.25 peak horsepower. You're gonna be able to do basically anything you're gonna wanna do with this router. It has 8,000 to 25,000 RPM, so plenty of variation there to use basically any router bit you need. One of the great features of this router is it has electronic speed control. And what that means is when it gets under load, it maintains a constant speed. So if you're pushing it a little too hard, it will ramp up the speed so that it maintains that speed so you get cleaner, better cuts. It also has the same Bluetooth connectivity as the 40-volt track saw, so if you do have that dust extractor, it will auto power that on. But the star of the show here is the Plunge base. It is a really nice plunge router. It gives you a ton of options for depth settings. So there's a turret style depth setting on the bottom that also you can micro adjust each one of those turret styles. But there's also a micro adjustment arm near the top that you can adjust and dial this into any depth that you're gonna want between 0 and like 2 3/8 of an inch. Like there's plenty of travel here. Another feature I haven't seen on a lot of other routers is the height control. In other words, a height stop. Instead of a depth stop, it prevents it from going too high. So if you need to set that for any reason, you can. The ergonomics of this thing is fantastic. I love these forward style handles. It's just easy to hold. It feels right in the hand. Where the power switch is and the depth lock is, everything's at a finger's reach or a thumb's reach. So is a finger and a thumb the same thing? I think so. They're all within a hand's reach. So it's very easy to use. Everything's easy to access. Now the Makita router is well balanced, even with that 40-volt battery on top. That's one of the complaints I had with the Milwaukee 18-volt, 2.25 horsepower router was it just felt a little top heavy to me. This one doesn't have that issue. As far as power goes, like routing a very deep 3/4 inch wide groove with this router was zero issues for it. It powered right through it, and this wasn't even the sharpest bit. Like the bit's a few years old now, but it powered right through, no issues at all. You can use this for edge profiles as well. It's just a good all-around router if you're in the market. As far as trim routers go, they have an 18-volt version. They also have, they probably have a 40-volt version. I don't have it. This is an 18-volt, but they also have a corded version router. These are great little routers if you're just doing edge profiles, even small grooves and things like that. They're gonna work perfect. My only complaint with these is on the adjustment base, there is a tiny bit of slack here when you're adjusting it, not after you lock it down. After you lock it down, it's rock solid, but just the micro adjustment, getting everything dialed in, I would like to see that a little better, but what you gonna do? Before we get to the one tool I would absolutely avoid, I have a bonus pick, and no, it is not another track saw. It's the blade. Makita makes some very, very good blades, especially this that has like the blue coating on it, the teal blue coating. This is a phenomenal blade. Phenomenal is a big word for redneck. This is a very, very good blade. I was extremely surprised by the quality of this blade because a lot of times you get tools in and the blades are the last thought. They're like an afterthought. Even the blade that come on the Makita Corded Track Saw, it's good, but it's not amazing like this one. So if you're looking for a Makita blade, they make these in all sizes, these coated type blades. They just do a really good job. You don't get a bunch of burning or splintering or anything like that. So if you're in the market for good blades, check out Makita. Now, not all Makita tools are rainbows and sunshine. There's one Makita tool I regret buying. Like, it's shockingly bad. And that is the Makita 5-inch sander. Now, I'm not talking about the cordless corded sander. I'm talking about this Makita sander that has the handle on front. There's another version that's just okay, that doesn't have that handle on the front. It's a corded sander. But this corded Makita sander literally shocked me. Like, it was knocking fire from my end. Every time I was holding that handle, it was just popping me like crazy. And I'm not talking about a little tingle, it was a pop. I don't know why that was. None of the other sanders I tested in the same day, I'm talking about like 14, 15 different sanders, all under $100. I was testing all those to figure out which one was going to be the best sander, and the Makita just fell flat. It did okay, like the sanding was okay, the heat buildup was just okay, the dust collection was okay. Like, it was all kind of okay, but that shocking, I just could not get over. It was just pop, pop, pop constantly. So I would absolutely avoid that sander personally, just because of the experience I had with it. And if you're looking for the best sander under $100, I think personally it's the DeWalt. They just make a really good 5-inch sander under $100. Or the Craftsman, which is the direct replica. I think they're coming out of the same factory. They're just different color on them. Those two sanders are very nice. The DeWalt is variable speed, the Craftsman is not, so there's like $20, $30 difference there. But me personally, I would absolutely avoid that 5-inch sander. It's just not very good in my opinion. I think they make an amazing sander here with the 6-inch. If you're looking for a higher end sander, in other words, you're getting out of the box store brands, you're getting out of those that are under $100, there is an absolute difference when you're sanding with these higher end sanders. You should probably consider one like this. Of course, there's several others on the market, but I like this one, especially if you want a cordless sander. But if you don't want a cordless sander, but you do want a higher end sander and you're just looking for one, you want to buy once, cry once, I'll always recommend this Festool ETS EC150/5. In other words, 5mm stroke. I like that stroke better. I think it's just a better, higher, a little more aggressive stroke for sanding wood and things like that versus the 3mm. 3mm is good for finishes and veneers and things like that, but for normal woodworking type stuff, I like the 5. Yeah, just check this one out. If you like this video, you'll love that one. 5 Milwaukee tools that are absolutely on another level. Click in that box, get you the big old virtual fist bump, or that Makita 40-volt sander review, blow your mind.